another team that's also starting to figure out is the Golden State Warriors, Caleb. Golden State has won 7 of their last 10 games. They've started to really figure that out. They've won 3 straight, and they're actually undefeated when Draymond scores double digits. They're 5-0, and when he has a triple double. Speaking of, you said that Westbrook has a record for most triple doubles in a single season for the Washington Wizards. Well, Draymond Green, he's 24-1 when he has a triple double. Draymond's played really good, I feel like, this year. Steph has obviously played out of his mind. He's averaging 30 a game, 48% shooting, 42% from three. He's 60% efficient field goal percentage. The last time he's averaged that much, Caleb, do you remember that? His 2015-2016 MVP season. That was unanimous MVP. So Steph, once again, another player, just like we mentioned with James Harden, not getting enough love. How many players are there in this MVP race, Caleb? And where do you have Steph?
This is probably the most wide open the MVP race has been mid-February in like a long time. Usually you got a solidified 2 guys that are gunning it out. Most years you have a solidified 1 guy that's clear cut ahead. I would say the MVP race is probably 4 deep. I would say Steph is right there. They're winning. They're 19-15. I mean, they're good. And
so Dame's not on your list anymore?
No, Dame is. Dame's at 3. I have my top 5 is 1 Embiid, 2 Harden, Dame's at 3, Steph's at 4, and Jokic is at 5. I like Jokic.
Wow.
But he has a ways to go. Also, did you see Giannis' stats on the year? I get that Milwaukee is struggling, but he's also putting up like very good stats. Like
we talked about it, voter fatigue.
Yeah, nobody is even talking about him because, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, didn't know he was putting up those numbers until somebody posted on Twitter and said, "Why is nobody talking about Giannis for MVP?" And it's weird. It's like
what we did last week with Dame. Remember, I brought up Dame. Yeah. I looked him up. I watched a few games, and then I brought it up to you, and you're like, honestly, I didn't even know that about Dame. It's the same thing with Giannis for both of us. And you know what's funny? You and I both had Jokic and LeBron in our top 3. 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
where they are now. Where's LeBron even on your list?
Like 6 or 7. I think this stretch without Anthony Davis and them losing and struggling has just murdered his MVP odds.
Yeah. And going back to Steph and the Warriors, Steph has played like that 2015-2016 year. He's played just as good, and he's playing without Clay this year. So you got to give him credit. They've been doing really good. I feel like they've proved a lot of people wrong. A lot of people said, oh, the Warriors maybe are a fringe playoff team, if that. They're going to struggle with Steph, blah, 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 because of what they saw last year. Clearly not the case. But I do want to ask you, Caleb, what is this team's ceiling at the end of the day? Do you see them being a contender at all? Like, do you see them being a first-round exit? What is the ceiling for the Warriors right now? And what can they do? Should they be buyers or sellers at the deadline to raise that ceiling or to solidify that ceiling?
I'd be a buyer if I could. I think you could trade away your pick or Minnesota's pick, depending on how they feel about Clay. If Clay looks good and working out and stuff, I'd probably move that pick. But if he's like struggling and everything, maybe look to make the pick, maybe pick a young guard or something. It depends though. But personally, I'd probably be a buyer at the deadline. I think Steph, Dre, I think they're at that age now where they still have a window together. It's just you got to put the right guys around them, and I don't know who that'll be.
Trade Minnesota's pick at the deadline.
Like I said, it depends on how Clay looks, but like it also depends on how Oubre and them look. Like if Wiggins keeps up what he's doing, and Oubre continues on the trajectory he's on, I'd probably just keep the pick and roll with those guys. But if one of them slumps off or Oubre starts sucking again, pause. Maybe you look to move him in a package deal with that pick and try to bring in a guy. Like I said, they said that this trade deadline is probably going to be one of the more non-eventful ones because there's so much mystery about this season, how weird this whole season's been. We'll have to see, though. But personally, I'd probably be a buyer if possible.
This is where I'm confused. Why should the Warriors trade their pick? Because you're saying this, right? You're saying if Oubre's not as good, that they should look to trade that Minnesota pick. Why would they trade the Minnesota pick at the deadline when I have 2 questions? Why would they trade at the deadline instead of at the end of the season and maximizing that pick's value? And number 2, why would you trade the pick? Because at the end of the day, if Clay is looking good, right, wouldn't you want to first, at least, like I said, wait? And then second of all, you'd want a star, correct? You'd want another, you have to get a star if you're giving up that pick. What's the rush in getting it this season? Because do you think that that player, along with Steph, can take them to the championship as well as Draymond? Like, do you think that that player can make the difference? So that's why you're saying the deadline that they should be buyers? Because I feel like they shouldn't be anything. I feel like if anything, they should be sellers on a guy like Oubre and try to stack up for next year. You really want to prove, that next year you can be a contender. And I feel like that your best chance is this offseason trading that Minnesota pick for a star. I just feel like it's too early. Why do you think that they should do it at the deadline?
Partially because I just think Steph and Dre are at that age where they can still go for it. You know what I mean? Like anything can happen in the playoffs, especially this year. Like I feel like it was just like last year. Anything can happen. But at the same time, like they probably aren't ready yet. But I don't know how much, like I just mentioned with them at that age they are now, I don't know how much a young guy coming in is really gonna help them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Wiseman's able to make an impact because he's a center. And centers typically come in impact ready. Like they can make an impact right away. They make a pick next year, like who's he going to be? Like if they have like a top 5 pick, sure, that guy can come in and make an impact. But like with their first round pick being at like 23, 24, it's not going to do much value. You know what I mean? Like trade it out.
Yeah, I don't think they should keep the pick regardless, but I'm saying they should at least wait till the offseason, I feel like. Because, okay, so here's my best argument for your side is if AD is genuinely hurt and he's not going to come back this year, the Warriors might have a chance if they can get another star.